Welcome to our resume workshop. This workshop is being offered by our career education team along with a series of other workshops in the fall and winter terms on career-related topics like networking, creating a LinkedIn profile and how to use LinkedIn effectively, job search strategies, interviewing strategies, cover letters, and of course, our topic for today, resumes. All our workshops are recorded and you can find them on our website and on Western's YouTube channel. Do remember that your job search is a journey and resumes is just your first step. You want to be prepared for all the other aspects as well, so do watch the other recordings as this is our way of equipping you for every stage of the journey. This workshop is going to cover the following items. Guidelines for a strong resume, including 3 essential elements and what to include in your resume, as well as suggestions for how to include it. If you already have a resume, even if it's just in draft form, I welcome you to open it and make notes on it or edit it as we go through the workshop. References. I'll cover some basics on reference, including how to format that information and where to include it. Lastly, you will receive information on services that are available on campus where you can seek additional help if needed. So what's a resume? A resume is basically a means to market your skills and abilities. It is your own personal marketing tool. Remember that the employer only sees your resume in front of them, whether it be a paper or an electronic version. It's your opportunity to make a good first impression. Your resume gets you an interview, so take the time to ensure it represents you the best way possible. You might find it, or some people might find it worthwhile to go online to purchase a resume. But you want to make sure that your resume represents you. You want to own it. So you want to use your own words as you will be expected to validate everything on your resume at the interview. Resumes are a bit subjective. You could ask 10 different people to review and comment on your resume and get 10 different opinions. Here in Careers and Experience at Western, our research and experience indicates these resume guidelines are all you really need to know. Your resume needs to be relevant to the position that you're applying to. We do not recommend a one-size-fits-all approach. You must explicitly show the employer you fit what they're looking for. Your resume needs to show your accomplishments, not just a list of duties and responsibilities. Also, your resume needs to be inviting and error-free. It should be formatted in a way that is easy to read. Think about a recruiter with a pile of 50 or more resumes to review. If your document isn't formatted well or isn't easy to read, nobody will take the time on it and it'll be put in the no pile. Now let's take a deeper dive into the first guideline. Resumes should be relevant. What does that mean? This means that only information that's relevant to the position you're applying for should be included. Some people are lucky enough to have lots of different experiences from many different areas of their lives, like jobs or academics or volunteer of club activities. Or maybe they've had many jobs, like a different summer job every year. The key thing to note is that you don't have to list everything you've ever done. Only include what's relevant to the job. Here are a couple of tips you can use to make your resume more relevant. Tip 1. Think beyond your job titles. Your job title might not seem relevant, but the skills you used on that job might be. For example, a lifeguard. Tip 2. You don't need to rewrite your resume for every job you apply to. To customize your resume to a specific job, look at a job description or the job posting and highlight the skills the employer is looking for. Then put it side by side with your resume, and if you have the skills you highlighted, include them in your resume. Those are called keywords, and using them shows the employer that you match what they're looking for. Sometimes small tweaks are enough to customize your experiences to what the employer is looking for. Here's an example of how to spin one bullet point 5 different ways depending on the skill you're trying to emphasize. So the bullet point we're going to take a look at is developed framework for globalization initiative to improve the sharing of institutional knowledge. And then, if emphasizing impact, you could spin it this way. Developed a framework for company-wide globalization initiative to improve the sharing of institutional knowledge, enhancing efficiency of weekly communication, and eliminating 50% of all staff meetings. And if you wanted to show teamwork, you could spin it this way. Collaborated on a team of 4 to investigate existing business communication practices that resulted in the development of a framework to support the company's new globalization initiative. If you want to show effective communication, consider if you've ever presented, liaised, written, or drafted something. If you've done that, then you have communication skills and experience. Maybe you worked on a project independently. Can you spin a statement that's in your resume to show that? If you want to show motivation, the same bullet point can be spun to show this. So we see that a resume can be a really dynamic document if you put in the effort and try not to get boxed in too much by thinking about your jobs as just what you were responsible for. When you're applying for a job, look at your resume with fresh eyes and consider how you can better incorporate the skills from the posting or the job description. And that right there is what career professionals mean when they recommend you to customize your resume. Another reason it's important for your resume to be relevant is that some companies use an applicant tracking system, or ATS, to screen resumes. These tend to be large companies that receive hundreds of resumes for one job. So what's an ATS? It's software that some employers use to parse your resume for specific things. Tips and tricks for getting past an ATS include using specific words the posting uses, aka keywords, traditional bullet points, no columns, no spelling errors, having the current year somewhere on your resume, including months in your dates, no acronyms unless fully written out elsewhere. And speaking of keywords, you can demonstrate online, remote, or work from home value by adding remote work keywords to your resume. To highlight your own successful career working in your home office, some of the resume keywords you want to use are WFH, or work from home, virtual, distributed team, global, remote. All these indicate that you are used to working across time zones and potentially continents. You also want to make sure you include productivity tools that are commonly used by remote-first employers. Can you think about some examples? Here are some: Slack, Zoom, Google Hangouts or Google Meets, Skype, Trello, Asana, Airtable, Office 365 or Microsoft Teams, Google Suite, Monday, Discord, or WhatsApp. Some students would sometimes ask the question, how do you know if your resume is being screened by an ATS? Well, if you've uploaded your resume and clicked submit, and you're required to input the same information into text boxes, that's an ATS. The next guideline that we will be looking at is accomplishment-based. Your resume should show your accomplishments rather than list your job duties. Job duties state what you were responsible for, but not how well you did them or what skills you used. Accomplishment statements show your skills, what you're capable of, and how you can bring value to the organization. Accomplishment statements don't need to be earth-shattering. They can be simple. So you want to aim to be honest when describing your accomplishments and provide specific examples. You can capture the employer's attention by using accomplishment statements that are relevant to the job requirements. Sometimes people find it difficult to develop accomplishment statements for their resume. Using a step-by-step approach makes it easier. Step 1. Reflect. Think of a time when you made a difference on your job, possibly saved the company some money, successfully executed something, or were recognized for your contribution. This will help you get started. Here's an example. Taught English as a second language to children. Was a very rewarding experience. I bonded well with the children. They looked forward to coming to my lessons even though they were on Saturdays. Step 2. Breakdown. Next, you want to break down your story into 3 parts. Challenge. What was the challenge you faced or the context of the situation? From the example that we looked at in the previous slide, the challenge was engaging children in Saturday classes. Next, you want to look at the action. What was the action you took? How did you respond to the problem or issue? What skills did you use? Again, from that experience, we find that the action taken was developed creative activities, used a customized approach to communication. And last but not least, you want to look at the results. What was the benefit of your actions? Who benefited? How? From that example, the benefit was children enjoyed class, had fun, and got correct answers. Step 3 in the process is transfer. Transfer your accomplishments to your resume by beginning with a skill action verb. For example, analyzed, collaborated, developed, evaluated, formulated, generated, investigated, etc. From our example, you can clearly see the challenge, the action, and the result. Here are more examples that demonstrate what the challenge or the context was, what skills were used, and what the outcome was. You can see that in some of them, that it's possible to begin with a skill action verb, and in others, you might flip it around to show the outcome of your work first. You want to always consider using powerful skill action verbs to describe the actions that you took. You sometimes see the same verbs in the job posting to describe what the employer is looking for. For example, facilitation skills. Or maybe they want someone with strong organizational skills. We will discuss skill action verbs on the next slide. However, if you want to go over these examples more closely, you can take a moment to pause the video, read through the examples, and then continue playing when you're ready. Here are some more examples of skill action verbs. Using strong action verbs, add movement and life to your document. find that words like participated, used, did, made, helped, worked are not very useful because they offer no context of your skill. Can you think of any others that are not listed here? You can find this list of skill action verbs on our website at career.uwo.ca/pdfs/skill-action-verbs.pdf. Our last guideline is ensuring your document is easy to read and error-free. If a resume is hard to read, generally employers won't spend the time to do it. Did you know that the average time an employer takes to look over a resume is 6 seconds? That's not a lot of time. So if your qualifications are buried, the reader won't look for them. If your document is unorganized, they won't take the time to hunt for things. You don't want to make the reader work to find information. So consider your formatting, the fonts you use, and your spacing and layout of information. Here are some ways to declutter your resume. Use an organized layout and a strong visual order. Avoid distracting formatting such as oversized font, heavy lines, or overuse of highlighting. Consider the visual center of the page and how recruiters read resumes. Make it aesthetically pleasing. And when looking at ways to make your resume inviting to your reader, you can also consider these suggestions. No acronyms unless previously written in full. You want to speak to 1 or 2 pages maximum. You also maybe want to present the most relevant information first. I find that some people in the creative space are able to give some room for creativity, but then it depends on the industry. You also want to ensure proper file type, as well as ample white space on your document. Consistent line spacing can also help make your document more appealing. And you want to stay away from fonts that are too stylish. You want to keep it simple and professional. Fonts like Times New Roman, Calibri, Verdana, Tahoma, Arial, Georgia, and Cambria. These fonts are simple and professional. You want to stick to basic bullet points and not too many of them. Bad spelling and grammar in a resume are near the top of the list for recruiters to reject it. So you want to carefully read through your resume, checking for errors. Run your computer's grammar checker, but don't rely solely on this because it won't find every error. Read it aloud a few times. Wait a few hours or until the next day and proofread your resume so you look at it from a fresh perspective. Have someone else look over your resume. 2 sets of eyes are better than 1, they say. Even better, ask the English major among your friends and family to take a look. You can also use text-to-speech. So now let's look over a few spell checker nightmares and see if we can spot the problems here. These accomplishments. Did you notice anything when you read through? This person says they were instrumental in ruining the entire operation for a Midwest chain store. It's obvious that they meant to say running, but then they had written ruining, and because this is a legitimate English word, the spell checker wouldn't have picked up on it. How about these sets of skills? Notice anything? Well, If a person says they have strong attention to detail, putting attention to detail twice doesn't really show that they have attention to detail. And these job duties, notice anything? Except this person is in two places at the same time, it's going to be a little bit difficult for them to provide in-person customer service while using the telephone. And finally, let's look at these awards. I'm sure you guessed that right. Very likely they meant to say they received a plaque, but instead they've put plague. So you see how using the computer's spell checker, while it might be useful when indeed a word has been spelled incorrectly, sometimes the wrong word has been used and the computer will not pick up on this. So that's why you want to read it aloud or tell someone else to read it aloud to spot these nightmares. When it comes to resume content, there are no set rules except lead with what's most relevant and finish with the least relevant. Consider the top 1/3 of the resume as high real estate. This is where the employer starts reading, so it's important to hook them from the start so they continue reading. Ideally, your resume must have contact information so they know how to contact you, education, experiences in reverse chronological, functional, or hybrid. We will also take a look at some other headings that could be used in your resume. So now let's take a look at the contact information / heading. Here you will speak about who you are and how you can be reached. What to include here is your name, English name, or if you have a phonetic pronunciation. Contact information like phone, email. You can use your UWO email address or another professional one. You can also include your LinkedIn URL. What not to include: birthday, marital status, picture, country of origin. The next section we will look at is the profile or summary. This provides a short summary of your education, work, and other relevant experiences. Helps to clarify your background to the employer and uses short, accurate statements used to introduce who you are and what you are able to contribute. This section helps your resume stand out as a read-alone, especially when a cover letter is not required. This section can also be formatted differently and more creatively, depending on the industry you're applying to. The next section is education. This can be listed in reversed chronological order. You can also include where you received your degree, your school and your location, the full name of your degree and program, month and year of completion. No high school. If your GPA is 90% or higher, you can include that. You can also include scholarships and awards, including what they're for, as well as relevant courses. Experience section. What you've done and what you've accomplished is what you should aim to put in this section. And it includes your professional, volunteer, leadership, essentially what you do outside and inside of school and employment counts. So you want to state your role, the company, organization, course, project, include dates, typically at the right side of the page. You want to use 3 to 5 accomplishment statements leading with a strong action verb and using industry-specific language. Target appropriate keywords so that the hiring managers don't have to guess. You can also group this section by skill headings to put most relevant experiences first. And here are a couple of other additional headings you might decide you want to include on your resume. Awards and achievements, professional developments or certifications, relevant or other experience, volunteer or extracurricular activities. Here's an example of a bad resume. So let's review together why we would consider this resume a bad one. There's not good use of the top 1/3 of the page. It's not balanced across the page. There are no headings to make things stand out. Adding a career objective is actually a dated heading and takes up valuable space. You may want to consider replacing that section with a profile or summary. Education here includes high school. Name of degree is not included. Can you think of any more reasons why we would consider this a bad resume? By contrast, we can see why this resume is a whole lot better than the previous one. Before making a hiring decision, employers generally want to do a reference check for the top candidates they've interviewed. So it's up to you to choose your references carefully to ensure what they say about you is consistent with what you've told the employer. Here are a few tips to help you with this. You want to list references on the separate document using the same header and style as your resume and cover letter. So in essence, you want to show consistency amongst the 3 documents. Ask permission to have someone act as a reference. You don't want to spring it on them. You don't want the recruiter calling them out of the blue that they have to provide a reference for you. You also want to keep your references informed about positions that you're applying to. And finally, thank your references once the job search is complete. Here's the typical format for references. Like I mentioned earlier, same header as your resume. And then you want to include the name of the referee, if they're a supervisor, a manager, colleague, etc. You want to include the current position and the company name. So if they've moved on to a new organization, you want to include their previous title and the company name to reflect where you actually worked. And then include their city, their province, and their country. Other contact information to include are telephone and email address, including their preferred method of contact or the best time to contact. Our career website at career.uwo.ca has a ton of resources for you. There's the Western Employment Resource Center for virtual drop-in peer support, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And they also do e-advising as well. We also have Complete Student, which is an e-learning module on career topics like resumes, interviewing, career decision-making, and job search strategies. On our website, you will find sample resumes and cover letters as well. Here are some ways that you can connect with us. You can attend a live workshop or view a recorded session of any of our workshops online on YouTube by visiting the Western's YouTube channel. You can also book in a career appointment or one-on-one support on virtually any career-related topic. Book an appointment on Western Connect. We're here, you can walk into our office. We're in the UCC on the 2nd floor, room 210. So you can book appointments for a Zoom appointment or an in-person appointment to meet with any of our career coaches. Like I mentioned earlier, you can also visit our Western Employment Resource Center, which is your one-stop shop for personalized feedback on resumes, cover letters, CVs, LinkedIn profiles, and a little bit of interview practice as well. Finally, we have tons of online resources on our website, so visit us at career.uwo.ca. You can also follow us on our social media for news and information. We have a brand new LinkedIn page dedicated to careers and experience. Thank you very much for attending this workshop. We hope that the workshop will be useful to you as you fine-tune your resume and get it ready for job applications. Thank you.